of peace and sustainability. Our session involves practicing artists, although I, the chair, Sarah Wilson, I'm an art historian, and it's called Contemporary Artists, New Visions from Old Histories. And two of the key questions are, how do artists interact with history, and how do they plot a conversation to revisit the past to build a new future? The first thing we're going to do is, of course, introduce our panel, who are from all over the world in various time zones. And I'm going to begin with Annie Albali. Annie, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Annie, and I am a multidisciplinary artist working out of Sausalito, California, and also a professor at the Sierra Nevada College MFA IA program.
Lovely. And Dina?
Hi, my name is Dina Danish. I'm an artist. I'm calling here from Amsterdam. I'm also a teacher at Rietveld Academy and the Royal Academy in The Hague.
Lovely. And Christina?
Yes, with microphone on. So, hi, yes, I'm Christina Erdei. I'm from Budapest and I live in Hungary. I just finished my doctoral studies and I'm a photographer and multimedia artist, and I work at the University of Moholi, Nagy. It's a University of Art and Design. Yeah, shortly. This.
Lovely. And Patricia?
Yeah, hi, my name is Patricia Lambertus, and I'm mostly into site-specific installation, and I make like room-filling digital collages. Yeah, and sometimes I'm also in teaching, and right now I have a summer academy exchange between Bremen, that's in Germany, and Durban, South Africa.
And Babs?
Hi, I'm Babs Reingold. I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I do large installations. I'm coming to you from St. Petersburg, Florida. And I think that's about it.
Okay, so just last but not least, I just say that I'm an art historian, Sarah Wilson. I teach at the Courtauld Institute of Art in the University of London. And although I'm an art historian, you might think that's not relevant today, but today I did an examination with a girl who's been working in between Ukraine and Venice. She's putting on a big exhibition of Ukrainian modernism in the Thyssen-Bornemiszen Capital Museum in Madrid, which will travel to Cologne. And today I learned from her the phrase exterminated Renaissance. We talked about the Holodomor, the death from famine of 6 million Ukrainians in the 30s, and the way that the artist she's focusing on, Mikhail Boychuk, passed from nationalism to Bolshevism to socialist realism. And we saw in her presentation portraits of weeping, mourning people, mourning a pogrom, and everything we do, in fact, is extremely contemporary. But I'm not going to be giving the presentation. So we've moved to our first presentation, which is in fact linked to the idea of destruction. And we're firstly beginning with Babs Reingold, speaking to us from St. Petersburg, Florida. Babs, over to you.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen with some images. Okay, I'm going to read so that I stay on my time allotment. Anyway, again, I'm Babs Reingold, and in thinking about artists and history, a Kierkegaard quote comes to mind: "Life can only be understood backward, but must be lived forward." As an artist, we probe new meaning, new directions, while the works of hundreds of artists simmer within us, an underpinning upon which any idea rests or resists. My forward for the past 16 years has been climate change and its effect upon the environment. It is the existential crisis of our time. This focus began after witnessing Hurricane Katrina in 2005 and shortly after hearing anthropologist Jared Diamond lecture on the demise of the past societies. It was Dr. Diamond's comment on the demise of Easter Island from his book, Collapse: How Societies Choose to Fail or Succeed, that stuck with me. What do you imagine the islander was thinking when he chopped down the last tree? These two incidents paved a journey of investigation into the links of greed as it affects the environment and one of its major aftermaths, poverty. Poverty is personal. As a young teenager, my father's illness landed us in a subsidized housing project for 3 years. This period lingered in my mind and manifested in a series of room-sized installations and sculptures. My approach was the focus on the negative effects of climate change. Among them was the last tree. This is what you see now on your screen, large. The installation first showed in Soho, New York at the Issei Cultural Foundation, and later an updated version had a 6-month view at the Birchfield Penny Arts Center in Buffalo, New York. The last tree it includes one lone tree and 193 tree stumps. Each of the pales symbolize one of the world's recognized countries of the UN. The stumps and the lone tree are constructed of rust and tea-stained silk organza, cheesecloth, and caustic string, yarn, thread, and they're stuffed with human hair. They sit in a pail surrounded by a bed of human hair. A video of a tree being first chopped, then chainsawed, looms above the stumps. The video includes an eerie soundtrack created by artist Lynn Culbertson with the rhythmic sound of chopping of a tree, which is interrupted by Diamond's, quote, last tree remark. The current series, Hair Nest, is, and I stuck in one of me working on it so you could get an idea of the scale. The current series, Hair Nest, is a conscious attempt to flip that script to the positive. And so now I'm trying to not think of all the destruction, which Sarah said my topic would be. But anyway, it's a conscious flip the script to the positive, to reveal the beauty of an individual tree through the process of drawing. These drawings detail an individual tree's skin or bark. Throughout the hours of rendering each, I am consciously reminded of a tree's resilience to withstand destruction, human action, and conversely, to withstand the destruction of human action, and conversely, our duty to care for these trees, a critical, sustainable infrastructure of the planet. To destroy the trees is to eventually destroy ourselves. To date, 4 pieces in the Hair Nest series are complete. Each contains a 7-foot drawing of a tree on layers of sanded modeling paste on panel, an actual branch or a cast fabricated branch, felted or stitched, a branch projecting from the drawing or laying on the ground. Other natural, upcycled, and salvaged materials sit at the base of the drawing, and a nest is constructed from a year of my daily hair loss. It's either nestled in a branch or fallen to the materials at the base. The series incorporates 10 years of hair loss and is essentially another time marker. Most of my work involves hair, the loss of it, the collection of it, and the transformation of it. In the last tree, hair is transformed into self-sculpture. As noted in these Hair Nest series, the nest is constructed specifically from a year of my own hair loss, and it places me with the tree essentially physically, symbolically, and metaphorically, as hair contains our complete DNA. More so, hair contributes to the definition of self as medium, again, metaphorically and literally. The perseverance of trees may be thought of in the same vein. Scientists record 22 benefits of a single tree. They encompass air quality, climate change, erosion control, and food. Tree markings, scars and burns, and the tree ring dating provide yearly climate history. The markings speak of an existence affected by elements beyond their control, drought, fire, disease, and of course humans. Yet trees endure. I believe the Hair Nest pieces deliver a message about the vitality of unseen labor, much as nature appears to be unseen, yet vitally imperative to our well-being. And again, I put myself into these pieces so that you could get a sense of the scale and the size. And then I'll just end quickly with, this is an installation that I'm about to show in 2022 in October. And it's called Felled Tree. And I'm using upcycled bricks, drawings of trees, silk organza columns of stitched shapes of trees, and real stumps and pails and the trees are wrapped in silk organza. And I will end with that.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Babs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's pass on to Christina, hoping that we're all going to be able to bring all this together at the end. Christina.
Yes, I hope I can share my screen. And yeah, so I always interested in the narrative potential in art and photography. I started working on projects that are passed on in the form of stories. Recognition of different cultural traditions and values is important in choosing the topic I work with, and also important the method I use. So usually I work with sociologists or anthropologists together. I work with communities in Budapest that do not participate in official representational processes, so they are exposed to them. And I'm trying to make room for self-representation and critical thinking. Of course, this is not an easy task. There are many bad examples from the last 20 years. For my practice is important the long-term thinking and the use of oral history, and also the work with a cultural historical context. I would like to show you one of my projects. It's a Jumbui on the outskirts of the city. This is an installation view of it. And in this case, we reconstructed the history of a nearly 100-year-old, recently demolished block of buildings based on the stories of former residents. And the neighborhood was a unique subculture, but it concentrated and reproduced destitution. So the local government decided to destroy the buildings. There was only the image suggested by the media. So our group carried out joint research to get a more complex picture of the history of the neighborhood. We made interviews, collected old articles, archival documents, and our long-term goal was to contribute to alleviating the problems of poverty and social inequality. We published our results on a website, and we also published a fanzine. This is the fanzine. I mean, just a detail of it. And we did an exhibition where the interviews, portraits, and other works related to the project show the fuller picture, I hope, of the place and the families live there. And also the people were able to see, I mean, the viewers of the exhibition were able to see the real opportunities for the inhabitants of the neighborhood and the barriers that affect their further lives. Okay, and this is another thing. I also work as assistant professor, and this other project I would like to show you was a university project. The title of the project is Spherical Stories. It was a semester assignment for students at the university. We work with people living around the square in Budapest, in the city center. It's a quite interesting square. And the students collected stories from people, and then they created spherical videos, so 360 degrees videos using archival and new images based on personal stories. When we were done with the videos, we went back to the square with these MetaQuest glasses. So the inhabitants were able to view the spherical stories in the same square. Even if the past has become a virtual experience, they could also incorporate the past into the present. So basically, I usually work with the small communities to draw their attention to the importance of their own stories. And I hope this practice can help people to build cooperative communities in the future. So
thank you so much. That was really very moving and interesting. And I think now we're going to move on to Annie, aren't we? Annie Albani.
Yes. I don't know if anybody in the panel is able to share that website that I shared in the chat. That would be really wonderful, but if not, it's okay. So
let me see if I can. You want me to see if I can
open it?
Okay.
I've opened
it. Got it?
Thank you. So if you're able to share.
Yeah, that's a very clever idea. Yes, I've opened it.
Can you share it? Can you share your screen then? I'm just unable to share my screen. So
I don't know. I would have thought everybody could individually click on the website link in the chat.
Okay. That's fine too. Okay. So I'm a multidisciplinary artist, and my work often explores new ways to witness a landscape and its relationship to human and non-human worlds. By examining the cultural context from which they're born and the layers of manipulation that shape them. And so this often involves lots of archival and field research, a lot of play and community engaged projects. But the specific project that I wanted to share with you today is called We Become Vessels, which is a video-based installation. So it's a series of silk printed flags, rock sculptures, and about a 12-minute video that's there. And this specifically responds to the geologic time and the military and the relationship of geologic time to the military infrastructure that is present at the Marin Headlands. So after colonization, the Marin Headlands became a rancheria and then was slowly given over to the US military. And you can see this direct relationship of all of the materials that they have used from the landscape into the military bunkers, the concrete, and how the military has so clearly changed and altered the landscape there. So I'm specifically interested in what organisms formed at the Marin Headlands. So a lot of the rocks there are formed from radiolarian chert, which are small little organisms that eventually went down to the bottom of the ocean and became like silica and hardened. And so thinking about these structures a little bit differently as like things that used to be these like living, breathing organisms. And so I think, what was presented previously was very moving about witnessing the present, but with a very long view of the past. And so the work tries to look at like our relationships of our living bodies and relate back to these bunkers with this new lens. So that's what I wanted to share today.
It's a beautiful thing. Could I just ask you, for the benefit of our audience, when you say the Marin Headlands, that's presumably in Israel? You haven't quite been very geographically specific.
The Marin Headlands is in Marin County of California.
Oh, I see. I'm terribly sorry, but some people, like me, for example, we just aren't so familiar with some of the geography. So this is actually geography. Yeah, okay. This is your local, California based.
Yeah, and so what's interesting about this specifically is that this was like sort of like the last American frontier for defending America from the Russians. So you actually still have decommissioned Nike missiles that are still present in the landscape. I mean, the landscape is extremely inciting and very violent, even though it is just exceptionally beautiful. And so I actually think that part of this work is trying to take off a little bit of the beauty filter and see the violence that's embedded in the landscape as well.
That's great. No time to have a conversation, but did the Russians ever attack or anything? It's all defense or no?
It was all defense, yes.
Okay, yeah. Well, anyway, that was very, very pertinent and surprising. So I think we're going on now to Dina. Dina, are you here? I go out of my. I go out of my. That was a really brilliant idea, actually, to put the websites in the chat. Dina,
and I will share yours as well. Let me get. I'm doing it.
So, Dina, would you like us to go onto your website now in the chat?
Yes, would be nice. I thought is Patricia to go first? No.
I've got. Yeah, Patricia. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. History is repetition. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Okay, I can't. No, my Adobe doesn't work with the system. It's really kind of saying no way. I don't know. Maybe.
So shall we? We click on your website.
I can share yours, Patricia. If
okay, thank you. So this is one word I just from my website.
Hang on. All right, let me make it happen. Let me make it happen.
It's normally like on Zooms, everywhere it works. I don't know why this
hopefully my computer won't explode.
There you go. Okay. Okay, first I want to start my okay, I'm into this room filling installation, and actually it started with the theme started from two sides. Like the one thing is from wallpaper. So I used wallpaper as a color, and I like to make it as a collage or a decollage. And on the other side, I have the theme of political interest. And this comes actually from, I wanted to share this picture of the Napoleon wallpaper, but anyway, next time. Because I found on my research a very interesting historical wallpaper of this Napoleon Austerlitz war. And this is really so undecorative that I was thinking, who's going to put this decorative wallpaper in a kind of living room? So, and that's why my question is always in this installation, it's like always a little bit of interior. I'm putting it into a kind of a room which I have for installation, and at the first time you see it, it looks. That's what the most people always tell me. Like they are attracted to it, and they find it very interesting and nice, and so they come closer and look to it. And then you see this little cracks, and you have weapons there. You have like really irritating moments, which you can only see in details. And that's for me the most interesting things because when I made this research about the war wallpaper, so I went to all these funny museums, like a tank museum, and the most interesting thing was for me not the tanks and not the museum, but like the reaction from the people who are watching tanks or watching military things, because for me it's like really a historical thing, and I'm always transform it into the present. So I can't look at it and say, oh, this is such an interesting machine. I'm always like, I have this image of killing people and what the machines did already, and I'm not able to make selfies in front of the tank. Like the most people are just going there like in a zoo, or just feeling actually like they're going with their children, and they say, look at this. And so that's for me the kind of history part which I find very important, to transform it into the new times, or into contemporary times, so that we still get the feeling of the beauty, but then also the cracks in the beauty and the kind of disturbance. So this is about it.
And of course, history repeating itself with time.
Yes. And this actually, where it's now, it's like the story of Pompeii like this. I made this installation for the pavilion, a little pavilion, and it's too bad that you have to really be in there and to see all these details, because that was inspired by the by the Pompeii walls and the Vesuve crashing all the houses and the people, and so I made a little reminds like a remembrance of the Vesuve and try to put it into new days. So I had also pixel clouds from Minecraft and Mayan volcano stuff and so on.
Oh, wow.
So
That's very sophisticated as well.
yeah.
So let's go on to Dina, and then all the artists will have showed us their projects and we can open some wider discussion. Dina.
Yes, hi everyone. Glad to be with you all here. I'll talk about my practice in relationship to poetry and play. And thanks, Babs, for sharing. I think if you can share the other one instead, I have like a second link. It's the one, or sonata in Arabic pronunciation, it's called. I'll share it again here. Here, I just shared it again. So what I would like to talk about is my core interest in the making of artworks, and how I have been using historical events from the past or poems from the past, and have used them as material to reimagine something else for now or for the future. I would like to talk about poetry in specific, and about translations and mistranslations, and the possibilities within mistranslations, misunderstandings, and miscommunications. And in this case here, what you can see on the screen is a translation of the Ur Sonata, which is Kochvita's famous sound poem that was written post Second World War. I am very privileged to know German myself, as well as other languages, which is maybe why I've had these affinities with translations and with sound poetry. Because in the poem of Kochvitas himself, it's even though it's nonsensical and very much means nonsensical, means nothing at all. It very much plays with the sound of words and the meaning and the tone of things. And that's ultimately what I've been fascinated by, the structure of poetry and the structure of writing, the structure of sentences, and how aggressive or how gentle or how loving they may be. He has also another lovely poem called An Anne Blume. It's a love poem. It's also a nonsensical one, but it reads as love. So I'm very interested in these tonalities. It's been very curious to me that this poem has not this sound piece, rather, the Ur Sonata and a lot of nonsensical poems had not been translated to Arabic, as far as I know, at least. And it's been also curious to me that surrealism existed within where I was brought up in Egypt, very much so. But motorized poetry or sound poetry, I have personally not encountered, and I've been trying to search for it for a very long time. So I've decided to translate it myself as a way of learning and maybe of reinterpreting what that could lead to today as well. That maybe it will encourage me to write my own sound poems in Arabic. So this one here very much focuses on the structure of Kochvita's writing, as well as the tone. So I read it in different ways, and in his instructions, he also gave the reader the possibility to read it in different ways, while also instructing that if it's to be read the German version, at least it's to be read with a German accent. I think, yeah, that's it for now.
It's so interesting because I teach Kurt Schwitters. I even met Ernst Schwitters, his son. But I wanted to say that his pieces, he actually wrote in English when he was a refugee. And some of his pieces, like Anna Bloomer, we retranslated to English. But what I wanted to say specifically to bring our discussion into the present, that in wartime London, there was an international pen conference called Schriftsteller ohne Sprache, i.e. there were many, many German refugee writers, and they felt their language had been so dishonored, they didn't have a language to write in. Some wrote in German secretly, he did. And some people transposed their language. But there's a big and interesting problem now about the Russian cultural infrastructure, people avoiding Russian culture, and the problem of people who are both Ukrainian and Russian, and the whole business of language. So I think that once again, like with your tanks or like with the ecological crisis, we're constantly being brought up into the present, aren't we? And we've talked a little bit, it was Christina talked about teaching. I think many of us teach either specifically in front of a class or teach through example, because I think every time we go to an art exhibition, we are learning through the examples and the meanings that are in the works we see in both group exhibitions and individual exhibitions. I just wanted to, before I again ask you all to come in, I think there's an interesting, when we go back to the thing, how do artists interact with history, there's both the question of cultural heritage, but destroyed cultural heritage, and what UNESCO, of course, calls immaterial heritage. Immaterial heritage can be the remembrance of something like an Ur sonata, or the remembrance of folk songs or whatever. So we're also discussing in our immaterial communication with each other this relationship, which I think is very interesting, between material and immaterial heritages. Who'd like to come into the discussion? Somebody, please.
Well, it's interesting. I had another project that I did called La Langue Dorée, which is out of the French Annales School of what history is and how they view history, and the idea of this long that it takes place over a very long series of time, rather than what's in the current journal or the war of the day, for example. But this idea that there is this long arc or this long process that develops what history is. And I, at the time, was thinking of this. I almost put it in today and then decided, no, it's not what I'm working on. But it was a fascinating thing at the time. And I was thinking about how we cannot see history. We're here living it all, and we don't have a sense of it really until we're able to look back. And that's why the Kierkegaard quote came to mind for me too. It's like, how do we progress forward versus what has gone before us? I know it's a non sequitur to what you're asking, but I'm just jumping in because it was all the thoughts that crossed my mind when I looked at this topic. And because I think of it as a fascinating topic of how we as artists interact with history. We're constantly doing it every day. We're living history. And I think that this particular time, I was wondering if anybody else wanted to talk about it, or Sarah, that how I'm feeling that the presence of history more than I think I've ever felt in my lifetime, and particularly because of the war and obviously what's going on. I'm looking at it from the view of an American, a United States citizen. What is it like in my country, and what is it like for the rest of you, like, are you sensing history more than you've ever sensed it before? It's kind of a crazy question, but that's my thought.
Well, I mean, this girl broke down in her when someone said something at all critical to her today after this magnificent work she'd done under such duress. She's in a very delicate and fragile situation, and she just got some news from her sister about going back to Ukraine after running away to Prague or something, just before she had to give her research paper 1 or 2 days ago. And my colleague has been, I wasn't able to do so, but been to the actual border between Poland and Ukraine, welcoming refugees for like 3 weeks, doing the kind of physical stuff that we as intellectuals don't really do. I know that lots of you, I know that being a practical artist involves a lot of physical work. I'm not saying you don't, but doing that actual helping stuff. And it's very emotionally draining and peculiar for people in varying degrees. And today, of course, our headlines in The Guardian are all about how it's going to be world famine coming up because of the disruption of supply chains. I think not only with COVID, but other things, we've become much more sensitive about how our network, not just the ecological thing to do with trees in the green world, but how our network of supplies is so amazingly delicate. When you don't think of Ukraine and people starving in Africa particularly, or people in chip shops in the north of England, not with the price of oil for fish and chips in England has doubled. It's like incredibly delicate, this wonderful little network we had, which one person can be in a position of command and mess up. And I think the analogies with the Second World War are so unbelievable at the moment.
Yeah.
Including all the old armor and all the old vehicles.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm saying that right now, I don't think I've ever been so aware of the history happening. I mean, we're living through an incredible time. I mean, not in a good way, but in a very bad way. And we also do this thing where we keep repeating history, which is also fascinating to me. I mean, human beings are so flawed, and that we are all at the mercy of a few madmen is and one in particular at this moment is beyond me. And it's beyond me that we sit here. I used to wonder back when Germany was happening and then the rise of Nazism, I'm wondering, like, why didn't anybody do anything? We're sitting there going, what were they doing? It's the same thing that struck me when I started to work on The Last Tree. I'm thinking, Jared Diamond is standing there saying, what do you think the Islander was thinking when he chopped down the last tree? Like, why didn't anybody think of this? I said, how did we get here? How is it that we are on the brink? Really, World War III is going on. I mean, it's not that it isn't going on. In a sense, it really is, because he's destroying food for worldwide is being destroyed. It's like, we're not just destroying one country. We're destroying, as you mentioned, this huge chain of events. What's coming? Who knows what's coming? I sound hysterical, don't I? But it feels that way to me. Anyway, I don't know if anybody else wants to weigh in.
No, I always think of W.H. Auden's poem, September 1939, when he's just got to America, but it ends, "We must love one another or die," which of course is as optimistic as the title of this whole day, towards a new era of peace and sustainability. It seems to me extremely, extremely optimistic. I don't know if the seminar, overall title, I don't know when it was decided upon. And yet we too are a network, and presumably all the people who participated all day are quite as strong. If we put us all together, I haven't been able to participate in all the sessions today, in fact, in any other rather than this, but we do make a very interesting kind of constellation all over the globe with different expertises. And I don't know if Hans, if there's going to be any summary after this about what we can get out of it, but presumably our networks are important in themselves.
Well, I do know that all of these are recorded and you can watch them afterward. You can go back at any time.
Indeed.
And I do believe that Frank comes back on and does some. I think there were summaries earlier, and I don't know. And then after this, there's a sort of a networking thing so that you could meet some other people for the next hour after this, and then I don't know how it. I didn't pay attention to how it ends, but it's in a strange sort of way. I just have thought about this topic so much once I was invited to participate, and how the effects that one solo person can have versus also groups of people can have on history, and how we can affect the course of history. It says, "Oh, your original session time has elapsed, but you can stay as long as you like." Anyway, so I'm really wondering, what it's going to be like 10 years from now. How will we look back at this time period, and what will we be thinking? And the ability of artists to illuminate and point a finger at and focus on and just bring to light and have people involved, and just the idea of spreading the word. What does it mean to spread the word? All of those things are always running around in my head. Anybody else want to hop in and comment?
I just would like to say that I think the most dangerous thing is like actually Napoleon did it, and all the big people are doing it. Like they're working with stories and they're working with images. And if you see what Putin is doing in Russian, so it's not only the one man, it's like the one man who stimulate the masses who wants to believe in it. I don't know why, because this is maybe the most important thing for artists or for every individual, just to not to believe in whatever big like Putin or Trump or whatever is promising you, and said, then if you follow me, I will give you the paradise, or if you follow me, I'm the one who knows how it works. And they are really very clever, and like Napoleon did it really with pictures and images, and he started to be, I just read it once, he was the first multimedia artist who really made like his historical thing in pictures. So that's why people just saw it and believed everything what they like. So, and Trump is always like doing the same, Putin is doing this, like, and then cutting off the critical mass, and it's like, I still don't understand why this really works so good, but I think it really works good. So,
well, as a former New Yorker, I mean, I knew that Trump was full of it. I lived in New York 26 years, and but what is staggering to me, that's the other thing. Like I said, I was thinking about how the people believed Hitler, how the people believe, and how people as a human race want somebody to solve it for them. It's a laziness, and the way why artists are always so fascinating and interesting is because they're curious. You're curious about what is going on. You're curious about what you're working in, and you investigate and you look into, and you're not turning to somebody else to tell you the answers for something. Creative people tend to want to problem solve or come up with their own way of doing something. And but the masses aren't that way. And I guess, as I mentioned, I'm just staggered by the ignorance of so many people, and also that that wanting someone to just solve the problems for them, and looking to that, because it's globally this whole strongman idea, this wanting that one person that's going to lead the country rather than looking to yourselves to lead. I don't know if that addresses what you're thinking, Patricia, but it is definitely what has crossed my mind so much now. I'm flabbergasted. I don't know if any of the rest of you are, but I am.
No, well, 2 years ago, there was a conference of the International Association of Art Critics in Berlin, and the subject was populism and crowds. And I did a little bit of research for that. I gave a paper, and it's amazing that the minute that Gustave Le Bon in France published the first book called The Psychology of the Crowds, it was immediately taken up by the military. And there was always this idea of the esprit du corps and making the whole body of soldiers think like one being and obey blindly. I mean, even now, if you don't obey, that's you can't be a good soldier. So there's this whole thing about blind obedience and then training the military composite animal, which is leading to so many deaths at the moment. And yet people feel very, very powerless, especially, thousands of bereaved mothers in Russia and things. They're all completely... Right. Everyone feels powerless. This is what's so dreadful. I suppose we do depend on our world leaders. I mean, poor old Macron at the end of his table, representing the whole of Europe, trying to talk to him. It's just a dreadful thing.
My husband, it was always, every time I talk about these things, this is a very old book, but it's called The True Believer. And it was written by, I believe it was a Irish longshoreman or something. It's called The True Believer, and basically crowds and power and those kinds of things. The how people, it's also cult mentality. It's but the power of a crowd and the true believer are two scary combinations. So that's interesting that you're bringing that up, because that is what is going on. And I listened. I mean, I'm a confessed, I think I told Patricia, a confessed news junkie. So I know every twist and turn of everything that's going on. I think that makes me liberal American.
Yeah, but I hope you don't know every twist and turn of Boris Johnson's saga, because
no.
More interesting to be a liberal American than a liberal British person at the moment, because everything is very nauseating and shameful. And in fact, you're speaking from Hungary, Christina, all sorts of...
Yeah, that's why I think it's very... So that's why very important to work with people, to invite people to share their stories, and also to create a history as a teamwork. I think it's quite useful.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Can help the processes.
Well, we don't want to end on too pessimistic a note.
I think history as a teamwork is a really positive.
Yes, we haven't solved the world problems here. How we're going to go about this and create world peace?
How do we get into the last plenary thing? I mean, what do we have to do? Do you know?
Well, we exit this, and then if you want to go to the last thing, you'll go back to the main page once you exit, and you would just enter it, and then they match you up. It's very crazy. It's like this speed dating thing where you're just getting into talking to somebody, and boom, they disappear. Okay, you're on to the next one. So
that's very weird.
It is, but it's kind of fun to do.
I want to write to you all individually, because all your presentations have given me not only ideas, but I mean, I have a tree person I want to introduce you to, Babs, who's in Lisbon, and all sorts of things like that. So I would like to say maybe we try to give this plenary session a role. We can all report back to each other. We can also all have a kind of, month later, anniversary Zoom or something.
Yes, sounds nice.
Chrome.
That's a great idea. I love that idea.
It's a nice idea. I think it's been very nice, and it's been quite intimate. And now we've got each other's websites. We know each other a little bit better. We can give each other, new ideas and things. Shall we all, as it were, say goodbye for the present and see if we can get into Bab's speed dating situation?
And before we go, Sarah, I definitely want to talk to you about St. Petersburg and William Jaffet, because
righty-ho, okay. Well, we'll do something.
We have to do a Zoom
chat exactly.
about that.
My paper for him was called Cruel Art, and it was about Dali in the Spanish Civil War. It also seems quite relevant. It's online somewhere. So shall we all say bye-bye for the present? Lovely artist.
Yes.
Thank you so very much indeed.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, a month from now, we'll see you.
We can do the thing. Okay.
Yeah, see you in the
report.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, Sarah. Okay, and the rest, everybody. Okay, bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.